All right, ladies and gentlemen. So in this set of notes, I'm going to give you some more hints about the car project. All right. So as you can see from just like what we talked about in class, here's one car that I've showed you in class, right? And then here's another one that you can take a look at, right? Remember, the idea is you are building a car to do or two cars, one that goes very fast, and then one that goes very, very far. All right, and the key component, the biggest one that hint that I can give you is all about your wheels. All right, and I'm going to show you here today is how you can test your wheels to see whether or not they're good. Are they good distance wheels, or are they good speed wheels, and then are they just really, really terrible wheels in general? So I'm going to show you that. This is probably the most important part of your entire project, because if you choose wheels that are terrible, you have no shot, all right, at doing either one, speed or distance, really, really well. So what I'm going to show you is how you can test them out at your house or here at school, okay? How to make it really, really quickly. It's pretty simple, and then we'll go on from there, all right? All right, so how do you make these simple little wheels that I have right here for you to make so that you can test it? For ones that are simple, like the bottle cap ones, what I basically did was I just drilled a little tiny hole. I don't know if you can see that right there, but there's a little tiny hole that I kind of drilled in that you can use. And I have a skewer right here. And basically what I did was I drilled a hole into both these, so that way I can just kind of poke a hole into it, and I can just have it. So now I have a set of wheels that I can test, all right, and I can also use on a car as I'm going through it. So this is what I have currently right now. For the CD, it's a little bit trickier than just drilling a hole. For this one, right, for any item that when I drill a hole, it's very clear, all right, and it's snug fit. Let's make sure, because you don't want your wheel to be moving around. So you want to choose a drill bit that's a slightly bit smaller than the actual skewer, so that way you can kind of just like jam it in there and it's on there tight. Now, one of the things that you'll notice with CDs or anything that has kind of like a bigger hole right here, right, it's a little bit more tricky because, you know, when you try to put the skewer right into that, it's now floppy like that. So one of the things that you can do, and this is what some groups have done, is they put a little bit of cardboard and they kind of glued that cardboard onto the end of their CD, so that way there's no hole anymore. And then you can just, as you can see, hopefully you can see it on the other side, oops, they just hot glued it, or they just poked a hole and then they hot glued it onto there so that it stays a little bit more tight for you. Same thing with this group, right? What they did was once they put in the stick, they kind of hot glued it in place so that it stayed right there, so it doesn't move around on them so much. Okay, so that's just an easy way to create your little wheel and axle. All right, and this is something that you can also make for your car. So once you make your wheel and axle like this, you can now test it to see how good they are. So this is the first step that you want to do, is just make your wheel with the axles, the two wheels. So, and you can do this with any two set of wheels that you can come up with. So at home or at school, when you make it, you can create this. So then you can now test it. So now we're going to go and get on the floor and we're going to test these wheels out. All right. So now that I've got my wheels ready, I'm going to now test it to see how they're going to roll. All right. So I'm going to set up this track. So as you can see, I'm lying on the ground. But what you'll notice is I've got a couple things going on. Number one is I've got a blue piece of tape right here where I'm going to lay my piece of my wheels. And I also have another piece of tape right all the way over here. I know it's kind of hard to see right now, but the idea is that's where I'm going to turn off my force. And what I'm going to use to get this thing going is my blow dryer. All right, so I can push it and give it a constant force. And what I'm looking for are two things, right? Number one, I'm looking for how fast does this go off the line. So when I use this guy right here, how quickly does this start moving? All right, it's going to give me an idea of how fast, or is this a wheel that's good for speed or good for distance? The second thing I'm going to be looking at is how far does it go, right? If my wheel goes really, really, really far, after I stop my blow dryer right there at that blue line, I know that it's also going to be, I know that it's going to be a good wheel that's for distance. All right, so I'm going to do two things to do this. I'm looking for fast speed. I'm looking for distance on my wheels. So this is a great way to test to see whether or not you have really, really good solid wheels, right? As you're going through, and you can kind of like compare all those. So if you want to time it, right, to certain places, you can get a little bit more quantitative results to figure out whether or not one set of wheel is better than the others. Now, I do want to mention that obviously your car is not just this. So you can't just take what you get here and say this is the best one. Because as you add weight to it and stuff like that, as you build more stuff, because there are other parts to your car that you have to think about. But this is a great, great test just to get a basic idea of whether or not your wheel that you have is a good wheel or a bad wheel. Okay? All right, now let's test it out, right? So now I have everything in place. So I've got my blow dryer behind it. I also put a little blue mark on the axle right here, just so I know where I'm aiming it at, so I'm consistent, right? Big thing is I'm consistent throughout my entire time I'm doing this. So here we go, right? Again, I'm looking for speed and I'm looking for distance as this goes through. So let's try one of the trials here, and you can kind of see what happens. So here we go. Right? I don't know how much you can see that, but the idea is, and the point is for me not to kind of show you, right, what happens in the sense that what my results are, but the idea is so you can test it out yourself to figure out whether or not you have a good wheel. So you can clearly see how my wheel just traveled, right, all the way over there, okay? And the idea is to see whether or not you felt like that was a really, really fast and also a long distance. So here's another one, right, that I'm going to try. So if I want to test this one out, so I got my CDs this time, right, I'm going to place it at the starting line. I'm going to get my trusty guy right here. And again, I'm going to aim it straight at the blue mark. And here we go. All right, you can clearly see that it's going. It's probably going off to a little bit to the left because I'm probably a little bit cockeyed right here in that sense. But you can clearly see the difference between the two just on video. You can. So you can get kind of like a good glimpse of those kind of things. But anyway, try these things at home and see how they work out for you. You can also do it here at school. You just have to make sure that you get a consistent force to do that, which for me, I use a blow dryer to do that. You can use other things that you think that can create that force for you. All right, but that's just kind of one of my my hints at figuring out what wheels are the best, because the wheels are the most important part of the car to a certain extent. Okay? All right, see ya.